What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Slate. My goodness gracious. Football is back. Reid T. Fowler. I am Adam Kaufman. I am all sorts of excited, Reid. I don't know if you got an afternoon nap in after obviously a very early morning for you. For anyone that missed it, our guy right here breaking it down as he does annually on Good Morning Football, NFL Network. We can get into a little bit of that later on, but nice to see DK represented, as always, in the form of your smiling face there. And by the way, the hair, it looked great. We've got a lot going on in the NFL. First game tonight. The season is getting underway in a matter of hours here, Reid. And, of course, the running back situation in Baltimore is just an absolute dumpster fire. How are you?
Did not get a nap, Cough. I mean, football never sleeps. We know this. The news never stops. I was on a couple of radio shows talking about, as the news was breaking, what this means for the Ravens. And it is a blow, right? We were joking before we got on air that this is the 49ers of last year, right? The Ravens are the 49ers of this year, where you're getting bit by the injury bug, and they have yet to play one single meaningful down in the 2021 season. So that's something to take into account. Yes, Good Morning Football was great, but at the same time, this for the Ravens. And if you guys drafted Gus Edwards, you know, there's a mad dash to pick up Latavius Murray. There's a mad dash to pick up Davonte Freeman in season-long leagues. But, you know, historically with the Ravens, you know that this is Lamar has been a guy who's always been able to take a lot of production away from the backfield, and you want that 1A guy, which is Tyson Williams. So having said that, you know, there might be some places like on DK Sportsbook that you can attack this rushing backfield, this rushing offense. But right now it's sort of a wait and see holding approach to see what happens.
Now, Reid, we're here with you for the next 45 or so minutes. So by all means, if you're watching us on YouTube, Twitch, get your questions in, anything and everything football related, but specific to what is going on here in Baltimore. It's possible some people are coming out of their workday and tuned in just in time and saying, "Sweet tea, cough. I don't. What are you talking about? What has happened? what had happened here? I don't know what is going on." Well, let us fill you in. In the last 2 weeks, Reid, just the last couple of weeks, the Ravens have lost their backfield. Okay, J.K. Dobbins out for the year. Gus Edwards out for the year. Justice Hill out for the year, a couple of torn ACLs and an Achilles injury. And so, like you said, it's all about Lamar Jackson, who was already running like crazy. I mean, the man has a rushing prop on the DK Sportsbook right now. What's the number? 945.5 yards at the moment. He has eclipsed 1,000 yards in his career twice already. So honestly, that's probably a decent number to hammer. But like you said, when it comes to season-long leagues, there are people that are out there rushing to be at their waiver wires or free agency, because most people, unless they really took a flyer, and I mean a real flyer late in their large leagues, nobody was thinking, you know what, I'm going to draft Le'Veon Bell. He's on the Ravens practice squad. Maybe he'll get a chance. I'm going to make the move. Or even if that was a remote possibility for some, people were not going, well, Davonte Freeman's probably going to find a team at some point. Latavius Murray's probably going to find a team at some point. I'm just going to grab him now and wait for that. Well, now we don't entirely know what the plan is, other than, I mean, the latest intel is simply Murray's still out there. Freeman and Bell are both under contract with Baltimore, both technically as of right this moment on the practice squad. That's temporary, but we don't know what in the world this thing is going to look like come week 1 on Sunday.
Yeah, so actually the Ravens play on Monday, Cough, against the Las Vegas Raiders. So you got a little bit more time to prepare, right? And look, if you're looking at this from a season-long perspective, right, like Tyson Williams is, like, if you picked him up when you heard about the J.K. Dobbins and then Gus Edwards was getting that, and you wanted the Gus Edwards of the Gus Edwards, which was Tyson Williams, then you're in luck, because he's the 1A. He is the guy that is going to get the lion's share of the carries. And you take a look at both of these guys in Lev Bell and Davonte Freeman. Like, Lev Bell was left for quote unquote dead this entire offseason. And now, because of the injuries, you bring him in this into the fold. I still don't think he's a guy that would garner a lot of money, even if he's on your waiver wire. And Kenny Ducey will tell you that he picked him up in our draft, and
that's right.
And no one remind you. Yeah, no one cares about our draft. No one cares about your fantasy football team, but Kenny Ducey will tell you. And look, like that was a speculative ad that might pay off, right? Because he's going to get the passing down work. But we also know the Ravens and Lamar, they don't pass to their running backs that much, right? And historically, they don't. And Lamar, if the pocket does, break, or if it does start to come in on him, he's a guy that runs the ball. That's why we like Kyler. That's why we like Lamar. That's why we like these rushing quarterbacks, is because of that. So even if you are picking up Le'Veon Bell, you're not playing him like maybe as a like speculative flex. If you play super flex or 2 flex leagues, you might want to put him in there. But at the same time, we have no idea what it's going to look like. I would argue that this bolsters up Lamar as a guy that, is going to get more rushing yards, obviously more work at the goal line. This also works for Mark Andrews as well. When we see the tight ends, when we see the running backs go down, the middle of the field, the tight ends, those short yardage passes, Mark Andrews, and we were joking again earlier, keep him in bubble wrap, keep all of the Ravens in bubble wrap. I think that does bolster up Mark Andrews a little bit over some other guys in terms of some of the props that you can do, some of the season long points projections that you can have on a tight end. I think Mark Andrews gets a little bump up.
So Le'Veon Bell, just looking at, and keep in mind, both these running backs, just ignoring Lamar for a moment, talking about the pure backs, these guys, both 29 years old, both veterans. That's, a little bit old for an NFL running back at, just on average. I mean, I know there are some guys like a Frank Gore who defy logic and defy father time. Generally speaking, if you're 29, you're a running back, you're on the downside. And that is certainly production wise been the case for these two guys that we're looking at here. I mean, Le'Veon Bell last year splitting time between the Chiefs, which you ask him was a miserable experience playing for Andy Reid. He did not enjoy that at all. And then obviously the Jets, where he wanted out. He combined for 328 yards in 11 games last year, Reid. 328 yards in 11 games, only started 4. He had an average of 4 yards a carry, which actually was a little bit better than he did in 2019 when he was with the Jets all year. And then Davonte Freeman on the other side. This is a guy who, obviously has not done a whole lot either in recent time. Last year, 5 games, that's it, 4 starts. Had 172 yards, 3.2 per carry as a member of the Giants after getting an opportunity after Saquon Barkley went down. That was another backfield that was in shambles last year. He had some success in the past couple of 1,000-yard seasons with Atlanta. Much as we know, Le'Veon Bell had success as a member of the Steelers. But is it realistic, approaching 30, to think that either of these guys, even if one of them nabs the job, that they are going to be a solid, reliable contributor for you in season-long leagues? DFS, sure, maybe, but season-long, do we believe it?
Not necessarily. I don't. Look, Le'Veon Bell is the guy that I think holds a lot of, and this is how we were treating Lev Bell before, right? And sure, injuries can cause situations to change, but we were viewing Le'Veon Bell as name value, in this Ravens backfield and insurance, right? He lost again. Darrell Williams, he lost his backup job to Darrell Williams of the Kansas City Chiefs, right? And look, Lev Bell, we know what he was. He was arguably the number 1 overall fantasy football. He was a Christian McCaffrey, 5-6 years ago. This guy was the 3-down back who got all of the usage, all the goal line usage, all the passes in the backfield. And that was it, right? That he was that guy, but he's just not that guy anymore. He doesn't, you have younger players, you have a different type of offense now in the NFL, and Lev Bell doesn't necessarily fit that mold. Can he give you good games? Can he be a guy that does perform? Sure, right? Because he's a good football player. But at the same time, to spend 30, if you use Fab, if to spend 30% on Le'Veon Bell, I think it might be a fool's errand. Tyson Williams, on the other hand, if he's still out there and you're a Gus Edwards owner, I will go out and spend 20% of your Fab on a guy like him, 15-20% to get him. Because this Ravens backfield, again, this Ravens offense, they run a ton. They run a ton, especially during those winter months. So he's going to get, especially in PPR and even standard and all formats, he's going to get production. That's the guy to be targeting, not the other 3 or the 2.
So let's go back to Lamar Jackson then. You outlined some of obviously what he can give you from the pure rushing perspective. We know former NFL MVP, what he's capable of, Madden cover guy in the past as well. But looking at what he's done just his few years in the league, his first season as a rookie when he only started 7 games, so obviously a smaller sample size, but he ran for, let's see, it was 695 yards. So 695, basically 100 a game. 695 he rushed for, including 5 touchdowns. And then each of the last 2 years eclipsed 1,000. He had almost, it was 1206 in 2019 when he was MVP, 7 touchdowns on the ground. Last year, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Is he going to be, just based on what we're observing right now? I mean, is this a career year on the ground for Lamar Jackson if he's healthy?
Yeah, it could be. It could be, especially what this offense wants to do, right? I mean, look at even the receivers, right? You got Rashad Bateman, he's out, he's on IR, but you have Sammy Watkins, Hollywood Brown, who's, a little bit of a smaller wide receiver. He gets dinged up in the offseason or in the regular season. Mark Andrews might get the Darren Waller treatment because he might be the only guy really that Lamar Jackson can feel confident and have any sort of continuity passing to. But if you take a look at Lamar Jackson, especially against the Raiders opening, I wouldn't be surprised. And he might, and we talked about this yesterday on the slate with Emerson and Jeff, and the question was asked about showdown and general strategy. And I mentioned if there is a glaring individual or person to be in your captain spot that is a no-brainer, do not make it don't make it too hard on yourself. Put that person in, and Lamar Jackson is going to be that guy on Monday night. I mean, the Raiders, and trust me, I've watched a ton of Raiders games. Historically, they have not been a good defense for the last 2 decades. And even though they sign a guy like KJ Wright, even though their defense is healthy, it's still going to be a defense that's going to struggle. And against Lamar Jackson, a guy that still put up huge numbers. I think he had more rushing production in terms of fantasy points than some of the top running backs, Kauf. And when you have a cheat code like Lamar Jackson, especially against a struggling defense like the Raiders, it's going to be fireworks on Monday night for him, especially on the ground. So, yeah, if he starts off early, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him rush for like 80 yards and a couple of touchdowns on Monday night, if not more. Again, they might want to not do that because they need to keep their star players healthy. But, yeah, I think it's going to be a banner year for a guy like Lamar, who's coming off of a season that was a little disappointing after his MVP season the year previous.
Reid, I'm looking at some of the numbers on the DK Sportsbook here and encourage people to obviously check them out yourselves as well. A lot of things that we don't even have time to show you, but they're especially entering the NFL season, whether it's individual games and totals, props, whatever it may be, and futures. They're just odds beyond what you can even imagine, parlays and on. But specific to Lamar Jackson, we were talking about it before a little bit, 945.5 yards his rushing total is the over-under as of this moment. Okay, minus 115 to go under, minus 115 to go over. You could look specifically on that Monday night game that you were just talking about against the Raiders, 70 and a half. And again, same minus 115 under, minus 115 over. Are you pounding the over for both of those?
Lamar Jackson, I mean, you don't have to pound it necessarily because it's minus 115. So you got to lay some juice there. I don't like that number specifically, but look, I mean, what is the path for victory for the Ravens, right? Like I'd be scared about the overall game total. I don't know. I forget exactly what it is, but I'd be scared about that. But look, I mean, if you can get Tyson Williams rushing props, they might have taken it off right now. If you can, right. I would attack something like those, right? Or like first half over a team total for the Ravens over. Like that's the stuff that I'm looking at a little bit more so than like player props. If it's not like to do with Lamar Jackson, yeah, the 70.5, I do think he goes over, but I wouldn't necessarily pound it because you got to lay juice at 115.
We're here with you until almost 6 o'clock. So about another half hour. See a whole lot of you here with us watching the Slate on YouTube, Twitch as well. Thank you very much for being here with us. Of course, reminder, the Slate is here Monday through Friday. It's every single day just after the 4 o'clock Madden Sim. So ballpark 5 o'clock Eastern time, sometimes 5:10, 5:15. But we show up every day talking about what is going on in the world of sports, sometimes specific to football, baseball. This one here on Thursdays, Reid, generally, as we talk about it all the time, it's sports. It's the all sports show. But today, it's really all about football. Maybe, just maybe at the very end can mix in a little bit of golf for you because I know that's near and dear to your heart as well. But football is certainly on the brain because Tampa Bay starting its Super Bowl defense tonight at home. The hype video's out. Dallas Cowboys in town. Tom Brady narrating that video for the Bucs. It hit Twitter last night, social media of all platforms, right at midnight. Everyone's excited there in Tampa, looking for ring number 8 for Tom Brady, which is, again, just, you can't even wrap your head around that, what he has been able to achieve. And this is, and we can, if anyone has any questions, we can pivot back to the Ravens running back situation and talk about whatever else going on in the NFL as well. If you have questions about your favorite team or specific bets, odds, whatever it may be. But for Tampa, Reid, we really have not seen a situation like this in the last, I think it's been about 50 years since we have seen a team go out and win the Super Bowl and then bring back everybody, all 22 starters, all 11 on each side of the ball, all of your important players, all your key cogs, everybody re-signed or just returned, whatever it may be, head coach, the entire coaching staff, none of the coordinators were poached, front office, all the key executives are back. This team is literally picking up where it left off, and Tom Brady and a whole bunch of other guys at the end of the year last year, I distinctly remember talking about on the heels of winning a championship, man, this is great, we're excited, but we sort of just felt like we were hitting our stride. Like we could be better. We believe that there's a higher ceiling than what we just achieved, hoisting the Lombardi, or in their case, tossing the Lombardi. So what do we think? Like, is this team going to go out and literally go out and dominate, or are they going to get a fight here in week 1?
Well, we know, and you know this, with the Tom Brady team and the Patriots, it's very hard to repeat. We saw what happened with Kansas City last year. We thought they were unbeatable, and they met an immovable object, right? Or, whatever that saying is. Yes, it's hard. And I would assume that the Patriots did something like this after they won, like their Vinatieri cheating in the Super Bowl or cheating in the AFC playoff game. Well, like clearly, and Brady admits it, that it was not a forward pass, but I digress. I would argue
wrong. You want to go at the officials?
No, they did nothing wrong. They did nothing wrong. The call doesn't mean that doesn't mean that they weren't on the benefit. They weren't the beneficiary of a bad call. They didn't do anything wrong, but they benefited from it.
I will take that. That's fine.
And all joking aside, right, that started the dynasty, and who better than to, captain the ship, pun intended, in Tampa Bay than Tom Brady, and to do this. Now, having said that, you're going to see lines like this throughout the year with Tampa Bay because of that. And this is what you have to be careful on, is that it's up at 9 right now, which is astronomical, and the over under, which I like, at 53. I like the under. I liked it at 51.5, taking the under. Now I like at 53. To me, that's my favorite bet on tonight's slate. And I know there was a question there from first time playing Fortnite, same game parlay. That would be one of the bets in a parlay, right? And a parlay is joining 2 or more bets to make the odds more advantageous in your favor. And so the under is at 51.5. And so obviously you're gonna take down, a 1.5 because that's part of it, right? You're not going to get as good of odds if you're just doing it standalone. But even at -110, that's kind of juice I want to lake off, because I do think that the Cowboys do have to pass more in the second half. But I also think that from a perspective of how the Freudian slip, how the Buccaneers want to play is they get ahead quickly, they get ahead fast, and then they sit on the ball. They don't need to put up 50 points. They don't need to put up a ton of points in this game to win. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL, and Zach Martin is out. This line moved 2 points, Kauf, or 1.5 when Zach Martin was ruled out. When star running backs are ruled out, the line doesn't move that much. So that's something to keep in mind too, that you have Vita Vea, who's PFF's #1 nose guard. You have Ndamukong Suh. You have those speedy linebackers, and you have that secondary that's, Antoine Winfield Jr. in his second year starting. This is a strong defense. And so I'm going to take the under there on that -110, just because now it's increased up to 53, and I was willing to take it at 51.5.
We got the DK Sportsbook up on the screen share in front of you. Obviously, Reid, you've had plenty of opportunity to peruse this game and some of the offerings that are available to you. You're talking about same game parlays and things of that sort. Obviously, you like the under here for this game, but what are some of the other odds that jump out at you that people should be considering a couple hours away from game time?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go the same game parlay, I know if you take the under 52, it's increased actually up to 52.5. If you do that with the money line, the Buccaneers money line on same game parlay, you get plus 130. So you're getting plus money now on a money line and an under bet. I actually like that quite a bit. I do like some of these passing props that we have for Dak Prescott. I don't necessarily like the yardage, but if you want to go the yards, that's fine. I think he is going to pass for over 274.5 yards, but I like that and trying to find, if we have it here, I haven't really checked on if there's a passing attempts. I know on the DK Sportsbook, here we go, pass attempts. I think he's going to go over around 30, like 35 plus is something that I really like because I have him right around like that 40, that 39-ish area in pass attempts. Tampa Bay on average gave up 38.5 pass attempts last year because teams have to catch up. And this was more towards later in the year. You mentioned it, Kauf. The Buccaneers started off slow last year. A lot of veteran players. You had Tom Brady come in, no offseason, no OTAs, no training camp, right? Nothing of that ilk, no preseason. And so they started a little bit slower. Now you have a full offseason, a full preseason, OTAs, training camps, everything. So I do think that they come out pretty hot. And as a banner team, right, we rarely see these banner teams lose or put up a stinker. The one that did in most recent history, Patriots against the Kansas City Chiefs when Kareem Hunt put up like 15 touchdowns. That was beautiful to watch. But that was the last one in memory where you see that banner team not do so well. So yeah, I like taking the same game parlays on the Dallas side. If you want to attack the Dallas side, is specifically with Dak Prescott in terms of pass attempts and pass yards. But in terms of if you just want to go like spread and over under, I do like taking the under 52.5 and parlaying that with the Tampa Bay money line to get plus money.
I was at that game. So was Flo Rida and Mark Wahlberg. We were not sitting together.
Oh, really?
In case anyone is wondering, I'm not sure that Mark actually stayed. He does have a tendency to leave games a little bit early sometimes. But Flo, I mean, had to be right there in Robert Kraft's box, having himself a great night. Yeah, that was disappointing. What a debut for Kareem Hunt back at that time. That was a
I had him. I drafted him like in my, again, this is going on my whole season long. No one cares. I drafted him in like the last round of that year, just like how you would draft these backup. And, I liked what he did in college and I liked his tape in Toledo. And I rostered him and he became the RB1 and everyone was like, oh my God, Kareem. I didn't play him. I didn't start him. So I had 1,000 points sitting on my bench and it was the greatest, but the sickest I've ever felt about a pick in season long.
I'll tell you a funny little story from that game that this is the kind of thing that awaits you in fatherhood whenever that time rolls around. So that game, and obviously it was like you said, banner game, big deal. And I was really excited to go and took my son, who was, I don't know, what year was that at this point in time?
2000.
I don't know. He was probably like
4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah. He was maybe 5 years old, something like that at the time. And that was his first football game. And he was so excited. He's wearing the Tom Brady jersey. We had nice seats and, but it was late. You only want to keep a kid that age up so late. I felt anyway, my wife and I were both there. And so we decided, you know what, we're going to have a great time. We're going to leave probably partway through the third quarter just to, get ahead of traffic, get him home, get him into bed at a mildly reasonable hour. And I say that given remember the game started at like 8:30 at night, fall asleep on the car ride home, whatever it is. And poor guy, when we left, the Patriots were leading that game at that time. I don't remember what the score was, but they were leading that game in the third quarter at the time that we left. Poor little guy woke up in the morning so excited that the Patriots won his first game that he ever went to. And I'll tell you what, Reid, it was a solid year before I told him the truth. I just had to let him believe it. Don't kill the dream for a while. I had to let him have that.
Oh man, you gotta give him the truth. The truth hurts. You gotta let him know what the truth is, especially when it's the Patriots.
Welcome to being a sports fan, kid.
they'll let you down. Like your team will let you down. Don't ever meet your heroes, kid. Because they'll let you down. That's funny.
Our guy, Julian Edlow, Felix, he appears on the Slate every so often, has the Unreasonable Odds podcast as well. He put an article out, DK Nation, some props from this game that he likes on the DK Sportsbook. Let me give you a couple of them, and you tell me what you think of them. Here's one, Antonio Brown, over 4.5 catches.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Minus 145, by the way, is the line on that.
And that's the thing I was going to mention, that what do you have to pay, right? Because what you're worried about with this offense is, Tom Brady's got so many weapons. They got 3 tight ends deep. We know you like that for your season-long leagues.
Sure do. Give me all the tight ends. All of them.
Chris, like you have a lot of players out there, right? Like he can easily pass you, but 4.5 receptions for a guy now that reports coming out, you want to go down narrative street and you want to drive down that lane. That he looks like he's Antonio Brown from 4 or 5 years ago in terms of speed. If there's an inkling of truth to that, it is a scary notion that Antonio Brown is their third or second, whatever. Like if he's their third option,
sure,
right? That'll be scary. I think he's right. Yeah, right at 4.5, 5. Like that's if I can get that down, if I can take that down, maybe parlay it with something and get that down closer, like getting even money. Then that's something I like. But Antonio Brown, I'm extremely excited for him this season from a football perspective, because I do think that he does provide this offense with something that they've never had, which is a guy like Antonio Brown.
Well, last year, 61 targets, just 8 regular season games by the time he joined that squad, had 45 catches, averaged 5 a game. So this is certainly a number that's right in line with that. And as we know, had himself a Super Bowl catch for a touchdown as well. Leonard Fournette, another one from Edlow here, over 35.5 rushing yards, minus 110. What do you think?
Yeah, if the game script goes according to, I think, Edlow's plan, which is, Tampa gets up early and they set on the ball, then that's easily accessible, right? Very easily accessible. I do think that you're going to be sweating it in the first half. So I do think that Rojo gets run. I do think Gio Bernard comes in at 2-minute warning. I think he comes in at third down. And so you're going to have to get that yardage on either chunk plays, which Dallas can definitely give up. Dallas can definitely give up chunk plays, even with speedy linebackers like Micah Parsons, who's a rookie, and Keanu Neal, who came over in the offseason with Dan Quinn from the Falcons to operate in his defense. I still think that towards the end of this game, you're going to see a lot of Uncle Leo and 30.5, which is, I think, is what it's at now. I think that's an easy over, especially in the second half.
Julian breaking down his game log from late in the year when, as we know, Bruce Arians actually decided to lean on Leonard Fournette. He had 93 yards on the ground in the wild card round against Washington, New Orleans 63, 55 against the Pack in the NFC title game, and then 89 versus the Chiefs with a touchdown in that Super Bowl. So, yeah, if they pick up where they left off and it's, more Uncle Leo, less Rojo, for instance, then by all means, absolutely. And we'll find out how Gio Bernard factors in as well. What are your expectations there?
I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, Gio Bernard, he's the James White in Tampa Bay. I'm sure Tom Brady had a hand in wanting to get someone like that because, Leonard Fournette, I think he was a receiving running back by default in Jacksonville. I don't think he ever really was someone who had a terrific hands. And Rojo, it's been well documented through his first couple of years that he struggled catching the ball in the backfield. So now you have a bona fide receiving running back like Gio Bernard. I think he gets a lot more run than people are thinking about. Like, I think he eats into Rojo's production more so than Leonard Fournette, but I like it. I mean, in terms of props, he can come out and he can get 6 catches tonight, 5 catches tonight. Maybe not for a ton of yardage, but I mean, who better to get him the ball than Tom Brady, who we've seen for 2 decades dump it off to the running back. And Gio Bernard is essentially James White in Tampa Bay, in my opinion. I like it a lot.
Staying with the DK Sportsbook, still focusing on this game, and this we'll get more specific before we get out of here in the next 10 minutes or so as to daily and obviously showdown contests and people out there chasing $1 million. I mean, it's a big deal, obviously. So we have things that we can get into. But with regard to Sportsbook, the quarterbacks, Dak Prescott, 297.5 is the over-under, both at minus 115. Tom Brady is 307.5, same number. Dak, I think, is just a more interesting, well, they're both interesting stories, just in different ways. For Tom Brady, it's, oh my goodness, what is the, he's coming off of, he already acknowledged he had COVID, though seems perfectly fine, but had COVID in the offseason after the parade, after they celebrated, and then obviously had offseason knee surgery. He's clearly recuperated from that. He's so busy making commercials and appearing in advertisements and social media campaigns. The man appears just fine. He's also 44 years old, Reid. So people are still waiting for Brady to just hit that cliff. And then, so that's, one narrative. I don't think, people think it's going to be tonight, but, Tom Brady looking for north of 300 yards against a Dallas defense that, while it improved in the offseason, was just decimated week after week last year. I mean, embarrassing, performance in terms of historical output. It was just, it was awful. And a lot of that went even further south when Dak went down. Spinning it back to him, he comes back off the injury that he didn't play last year after the first handful of games. And at that point, statistically speaking, might have been on an MVP pace. I don't know that he would have gotten there, just because I don't know how good the team would have been. And obviously some voters do make that part of the conversation, but he was individually, not that he didn't have help from his wideouts and tight ends and running backs, but in terms of his numbers, he was on an unreal and historic pace last year before he went down. Now we're about to find out what he looks like come week one once again. What are your expectations for these two guys?
Yeah, I think Dak Prescott is someone that I'd rather, if you're looking from the DK Sportsbook side, and there was a question from CJ71, at what high value player would I fade? Or would we fade? Because he mentions they, so I guess I can add you into this. But
thanks.
Both of these quarterbacks are the most expensive, right? I think that the early prognostication is that this is going to be a high scoring game because of defense and because of how good the offense on Tampa Bay side is. And I want to get both of these quarterbacks into my lineups. But maybe not the captain spot. I'd be more inclined like an Antonio Brown, a Gio Bernard, someone like, of that nature, and maybe stack like all Tampa Bay players or stack all Dallas players in this matchup if I'm playing in these GPPs. But yeah, I think we're going to see a big night from Dak Prescott from a statistical standpoint, because I think he's just going to have to. I think he's going to have to pass quite a bit. Expectation wise is like, I think for him, I think it's going to be a lot of the same, right? Not a lot's going to change from last year to this year because a lot didn't change from the defensive side for Dallas. Like I mentioned, they bring in some guys, but last year, 26th ranked in PFF, their secondary was Dallas. And that I don't really think changes, right? Byron Jones left for Miami. He was their best cover corner. And we just don't see I just don't see any real substantial, changes from this defense. And Dak Prescott is going to have to do what he did last year again this year. And sure, they can make some adjustments and improvements incrementally, but again, I don't think it's going to be substantial. And I think Dak is still going to have to pass quite a ton. So I do think that from a statistical and a fantasy standpoint, I like Dak. Like Brady. The one thing, and you mentioned it, you alluded to it earlier, Kauf, is that at what point do people, and I'm in this camp that I do think there is a chance he hits a wall. Not tonight, though. That's the one thing from a season-long perspective is when does that happen, right? Like, when does it happen? He's 44. This is unprecedented. It's like Vinny Testaverde range, and Vinny is not. Yeah, exactly. Vinny is not Brady, and Brady is not Vinny. Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn is Finkel. It's the exact opposite. So I'm going to be fading, to go back to that question, is someone like Zeke, like 14-4. This Tampa Bay defense, like I mentioned, is strong. It is strong. And Zeke, I don't think Zeke's going to be a bad play. You're definitely playing him in season long. But on this showdown slate, I want to get these receivers on the Dallas side. I want to get even the receivers on the Tampa Bay side, but more so on the Dallas side. And I want to stack them with a guy like Dak Prescott, and then maybe bring it back with someone like Antonio Brown or even Chris Godwin. Antonio Brown, from a PFF score standpoint, is the highest rated receiver on this team. So that's what I'm looking for. But both these quarterbacks I think are going to be fine. I'm just a little bit worried season long about Tom Brady, just because that wall might be hit at some point and you don't want to be holding the bag.
Mike Bauer in the chat asking if you guys are fading Zeke versus Tampa, that defense. So good that obviously you touched on that. And by all means, people get your questions in before we get out of here. Another 5-7 minutes, whatever it is. Looking at the showdown tonight, and again, a lot of money on the line. People are chasing it. By all means, football's back. Make your lineups and jump on in. DK Lobby. The contests are all over the place at low stakes, high stakes, whatever it is that you're going after. So I think that obviously we can't sit here and build lineups for people, nor quite frankly would you want us to, because especially it's a showdown. There's so much variance in a showdown to begin with that there's that random dart throw that's gonna go off inevitably. It always, like, Michael Gallup is gonna be low owned tonight, folks, and watch him score 2 touchdowns. Like that's just the kind of thing that obviously could happen, Reid. But looking at captains and projected captains based on some of the information that's out there, and everyone has different sites they like to visit. A couple of guys, one that you hit on before, Antonio Brown looks like he could really be the chalky captain tonight. So it becomes, how do you build around him? Like it looks, based on some of the stuff I'm looking at, the chalkiest captains are on the Tampa side. They're Antonio Brown and they're Tom Brady. So what makes you, I guess, like you like to say it all the time when it comes to DFS, tell yourself a story. How's this game going to shake out? What would take you in the direction of captaining someone other than those two? Maybe even potentially captaining a Cowboy.
Yeah, historically, quarterbacks get the most point production, right? Like, they can 4x from their price. Talking about classic, right? They can 4x their price just because they're involved in every single play. It's not rocket science. I would also argue too, Kauf, that you don't have to necessarily be contrarian just to be contrarian. Just because someone is heavily rostered doesn't mean you need to fade off of that person. If there is something that you can say, like Antonio Brown, if he wasn't being chalky, like going to him over a guy like Brady, I do think that from a standpoint, and I mentioned this, and this is something that I'm going to contradict myself, obviously. But this is how you get contrarian. That this is a high scoring game, right? 52.5, 53 over under. That people are looking at Tampa Bay's defense, stout, like I just mentioned. You already heard everybody say that, right? You got to take the narrative, the whole meta, like everything holistically. Like Ezekiel Elliott is going to be in every single play. Like he's going to be out there no matter what, right? Even if they're down, he's going to be out there. If Tampa Bay does what they did to Mahomes in the Super Bowl to Dak Prescott, and he doesn't have time, you're going to see a lot of dump off passes, a lot of screen passes and stuff of that nature to Ezekiel Elliott. So someone who has that type of perceived production is someone that you might want to pivot towards for the captain if you're looking to be contrarian, right? Like I think Zeke Elliott is someone that if I were to play him, it would be in the captain spot because no one is playing him in the captain spot. And this is for GPPs. You're trying to win the million maker for GPPs in the showdown. You got to be contrarian. And from there, you say, okay, if that's the case, most people don't correlate running back and wide receiver. Maybe I go CeeDee Lamb, and Blake Jarwin, for instance, and try and do it that way, and then bring it back with a guy like Tom Brady and stack Dak Prescott with them. That's how I would start to look at how you want to potentially build your lineups. Is if you want to be contrarian off the captain spot, someone like Zeke provides a type of contrarian build that isn't necessarily terrible, right?
Is Dak Prescott a good captain just from he's expensive, obviously, but from the standpoint of what you outlined before, if that Tampa defense is as good as we expect it to be, not only this year, but especially tonight, he's going to have to throw the ball a lot. It's going to be less, it's going to be more Dak. If he's going to be throwing the ball all over the field, and furthermore, if the defense is as bad for Dallas as it was last year and Tampa's just out ahead early and Dak's going to have to be throwing the ball to play catch up, does that make him a desirable captain?
Yes and no. I think it comes down to what you think the roster percentage is going to be. I think the optimal lineup, if you take a look at Dak Prescott, in my mind, that's probably halfway down. If I'm taking optimal lineups, I think Dak Prescott is somewhere in the middle there, just because of the ownership. I do think that people are going to think of that, right? Think that same narrative, and he's going to be over leveraged in that nature. So, I'd rather captain someone like Brady, or like I'd rather roster someone or captain someone like Uncle Leo, right? Like that's what you have to think about in GPPs is how can you be contrarian and go maybe against the grain while still obtaining the production that you potentially need. Like I mentioned, I think Gio Bernard, like if you captain Gio Bernard and he's only going to be out there in passing situations, you're getting the receptions and you're getting the yardage in PPR. Yep. So captaining someone like him, if he's at, what's his price tag? Like 2,000 for him to 5X, that's 10 points. If he scores a touchdown, and has 4 catches or like 40 yards, he gets there, very quickly. And that can happen on one series.
Yep.
So like Gio Bernard, and if you do like a Tampa Bay stack, even Mike Evans too. I mean, we haven't touched on Mike Evans at all. So he's someone too that I really like. Everyone's talking up AB. You see all the stuff that come out. I like AB. Everyone likes AB. Mike Evans is the red zone guy. If it's not Gronk, if it's not these tight ends, Mike Evans is that guy. So I also like him as well. So there's a lot of places to go. You guys have to, obviously you have to make your own lineups, but think creatively in showdowns because you're going to have to if you want to take down the Millie Maker.
How excited are you that football's back, that you got a game tonight that matters for a full 60 minutes?
Yeah, I'm doing my final Survivor stuff now, putting in the league fees, making sure all the lineups are set, everybody. But this is it. Like, you and I aren't going to sleep for the next 5 months, but that's okay. On the East Coast, like you mentioned, the games start at 8:30, don't end until, way past everyone's bedtime on a school night. That's okay. This is exciting. And, we made it. We want to make sure everybody is safe. You want to make sure everything goes according to plan. But yeah, this is exciting stuff, Kauf. And stick around with DraftKings, everybody. Like we're doing some amazing stuff over here at DraftKings throughout the entire season. So everybody stick around.
Yeah, somebody had asked in the chat, might have been our guy Robbie Noble a little while ago, if Leaderboard Live will be a thing this season. As of right now, it is not. However, as Reid touched on, there's a lot of great stuff coming your way on the DraftKings social channels, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you like to find us. We're going to have a lot of great content for you. Obviously, the sweat comes your way Monday through Friday, plus on Sundays. Starting this weekend, you'll have a couple hours of sweating and previewing what is going on for the main slate and beyond, looking all the way ahead to Sunday Night Football. And of course, the slate, like I said, is, we're here with you Monday through Friday after the 4:00 Madden Sim. So right around 5:15 Eastern time. So there's no lack of us when it comes to giving you information. That's just some of the content that is coming out. There's other stuff that we've yet to announce as well that you will all be excited about if, you enjoy the analysis and you enjoy football talk. And that's what it's all about. It was a long summer, maybe not as long because people had, seasons delayed. And so some later into the summer basketball and hockey, but, for the last little while, it's been golf, it's been baseball, it's been some other stuff, but we are ready to sink our teeth into football again. It's pretty exciting. So I want to thank Eamon, Daniel, everybody else involved in this. Reid, of course, I'm Adam. We look forward to, being with you again. I'll be with you for this show tomorrow with, I believe, Bukes and Lamarca. Maybe it's some other combination. Either way, it'll be fun. And Reid will be doing this every Thursday, my friend. Look forward to it.
Absolutely. And Bukes might be in a new place. So stay tuned.
Ooh. See ya.